Hello everyone, it's the Canadian Futures Trader here. Welcome to the channel and welcome to the video.
Gotta get more followers.
If you have not already, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, get notified every time I put out a brand new video. In today's video, going to be going over the top 10 questions about funded futures trader programs. As told by a funded trader, guys, I will get a little bit to my background in a second, a little bit more information, but basically I get asked quite a few questions about the various programs, and a lot of times it's the same question, so I thought I would just cherry pick the top 10 that I get quite often. Hopefully this will help someone who's maybe new to the world of futures trading, funded futures trader programs, you're curious about how they work. Good chance one of the questions in this video is one you might have had and will hopefully be answered. A quick bit about my background. I started trading futures early 2020. Before that, I spent several months researching futures trading, researching the various funded trader programs, researching, trading methodology, what strategies do you use to enter trades, etc. I then started doing some of the trader evaluations. Late 2020, I started my YouTube channel mainly to kind of show my progress. I was doing what I thought was pretty well in a few of the evaluations and just kind of wanted to document it day to day. Well, I got a lot of questions on those and started answering them, and things just kind of grew from there. So I started a website in early 2021, putting out full reviews of each of the companies, the pros, the cons, and other information about trading as well. Continued to grow from there, and late 2021, I put a free course on my website. It's kind of like basics of futures trading, and it also has all of my setups for the U.S. Treasury bonds, which is what I trade myself. Basically, over 2020, I passed evaluations with several companies. I just recently put up a video as well about my top 5 funded futures programs. If you're curious, go look at that video. I'll put a link down below. In my travels through the funded programs, most of them have been great experiences, but I have come across information that some companies aren't as great. So I want to put out what I feel like are the top 5 companies out there. So a quick preface before we get to these top 10 questions, guys. Don't worry, we will get there. I will also mention I put timestamps down below if you want to jump around. So I kept the questions specific to trader evaluation. So these questions aren't about futures trading in general, about trade setups, nothing like that. These questions are specifically about funded futures trader programs. If you have a question about a company, feel free to email me. My email also is down below. It's also my website. I'm happy to answer questions, things like comparing two companies, helping clarify information you don't understand something about a program, etc. What I'm not that happy to answer is questions that are easily available. So I wrote here, Google is your friend. As well, the funded trader company websites have a lot of information in their help and facts. Typically, my personal rule is if the email you sent me could have just been typed into Google and you would have gotten your answer, I'm not going to reply. So things like, how much does the 150K evaluation cost at Earn to Trade? Well, you could have just went to their website and it's right there front and center. I'm not your personal secretary. I try to share a lot of information. As well, things that are on the company's websites in their facts. So just last week, I got 2 separate emails that were essentially the same question that kind of baffled me because somebody asked, hey, I signed up for Lilu, how do withdrawals work? So they were asking me this information. So one, you signed up and you don't even understand or have no information about how the withdrawal process works. You weren't curious about that before you signed up. 2, it's on their website. So withdrawal information about all of the companies is on their respective websites. Second question I got was somebody asking about Apex, and they said, hey, I signed up. I blew my account, but I'm not going to sign up again because I didn't realize what the withdrawal process was, and they should really put that information on their site. Guys, it's on their site. It's right front and center on their help page. Like I said, I'm happy to answer pretty much most people's questions, but just ones that are fairly simplistic and available on the company's websites, or ones that are fairly elaborate, like withdrawal process. I'm not going to retype information that's out there. So that said, guys, let's get to the actual questions that I think are valid questions. Which company is the best? I get this question, probably the most common question I get, and my answer is there is no best company. It depends on what is important to you. So out of all these companies, while at a macro level, it's generally the same, right? You trade for some amount of days, you're allowed to trade so many contracts, you pass, you get a funded account. But then when you get to the micro level, there's lots of differentiation. The upfront cost, how long do they take to pass, what account size, withdrawal rules. So you kind of have to figure out what are the important pieces of the puzzle to you. Then I can kind of help you determine what program would be best. So just sending an email that says, what's the best company? I can't help you. If you send an email that says, hey, I have a limited budget, so I'm looking for something more affordable. I'm fairly new to futures trading, so I'm hoping there's some education included, and I just want very straightforward withdrawal rules. Perfect. I know exactly who to send you to. If you send me a different email that says, hey, I'm looking to sign up for 10 different accounts at the same time. I want a short evaluation process, and I'm not too worried about withdrawing my profits, in the first week. I'm happy to build up an account. Okay, totally different company. I'm going to tell you that is probably the right one for you. So there is no best company. There's the best company for you. Question number 2, why do these companies risk their own capital on traders? I think this question comes a lot of times from people not really fully thinking through the entire process and how it works, or they just don't. This is probably fairly new to a lot of people, right? The idea that some company will give you money to trade with, again, seems kind of weird, right? To most people. So let me just walk you through it. So only traders who pass are getting funded. So when you're doing the tryout, you're completely on sim. So first things first, only traders who pass are the ones who are getting funded. So they've already demonstrated some level of proficiency. Once you are funded, there's still rules in place. I think I mentioned this in another slide as well. It's not like you just get a funded account and you can do whatever the hell you want with it. No, there's still drawdown rules in place. There's scaling plans in place. So the downside of the companies is pretty well protected. I don't want to get too far into trailing drawdowns and talking about all of that, but once you reach some level of profit, let's say you're in a 50K account, you get funded, and you get your profit up to $55,000. Well, at that point, your drawdown is going to be at the 50K level. Like, you're not going to be able to fall below your starting balance. So the company is fully protected. You can't lose more than they initially put up for you to start with. That is why they're happy to give you, an 80-20 split or a 90-10 split, because it's an easy return for them. Their downside is protected, so it's really up to you to take advantage of the opportunity. Number 3, so what is the process? So I just take a test, I pass, I get funded. Again, kind of a question that I think a lot of people new to the idea of funded trader programs has. I was trying to think about myself when I first kind of learned about this world just a couple years ago. And yeah, I had a lot of the same questions. Like, it seems weird, right? These companies just give you money to trade with. The short answer is yes. You essentially will trade 10 to 15 days, depends on the program. You follow the rules, and the rules vary by company, but there's sometimes consistency rules. There's definitely drawdown rules, contract sizing rules. You reach the profit goal. You essentially pass the test. You will then get a contract to sign, you go through that process, and then within a few days to sometimes it might take a week, you get your funded account. This last point is what I was mentioning in the previous question. There's still rules once you're funded, and again, I think that's the big thing that people aren't thinking. They're thinking they just get $50,000, they can do whatever they want. Not true. So you're going to have rules in place once you're funded that you have to abide by. But in general, that is the process. There's not much more to it. I think the nuance is that futures trading is very difficult. People often overlook that little bit. They just sign up for as many accounts as they can, and they think they're going to be running around with all kinds of funded accounts. Once you get to the ins and outs of trading, you quickly get taught a lesson or two. I can speak for myself and from probably for several others just based on stories I hear. Number 4, does the monthly subscription stop after I pass, and or what are the fees once funded? So the short answer is yes. All the programs, once you pass, you stop paying the monthly fee. The monthly fee is for the testing kind of phase, evaluation phase. The funded fees depend on the company. So I'm going to keep this generic. Most companies have an ongoing monthly fee, and that's to cover data and withdrawal fees. It ranges anywhere from like $80 up to $115. Some have it just a set fee, like $80 a month. Others have it as a fee per market. So you want to look at that stuff. I think it's important to know. Again, one of those things that a lot of people ignore before they sign up, and then they learn it after. They're mad about it, but it was kind of your responsibility to kind of read entirely how this works. So I mentioned UProfit here. So UProfit is kind of the one outlier in that they have a one-time fee instead. So instead of paying a monthly fee once you pass, so all the companies have the evaluation phase monthly fees. Once you pass, UProfit does it where you pay a one-time fee up front, but then there's no ongoing fees. Most of the other companies is an ongoing monthly fee. And that's how that works. Number 5, can I hold positions overnight, over a weekend, and why? Or more specifically, why not? Because you are not allowed to. So positions need to be closed. The specific time varies by the company. It's important to know, or that will be one of the rules you need to follow. You need to have all your positions closed by a certain time. It is generally between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or 3 to 4 p.m. Central Time. Then the question is why? Why can't I? Why can't I hold a position past the close or over a weekend? So there's substantial additional risk to holding a position open past the close. Something big happens in the world. One country goes to war with another. Oil tanker explodes. Whatever it might be. Prop firms don't want to take on that risk. So both in the evaluation phase and the funded phase, you're not going to be able to hold past market close on a daily and or weekly basis. All of that said, there are a few programs that do allow for swing trading. They typically only allow it on the micros, I want to say, and there's not too many of them. I honestly don't spend any time looking into those. I know they're out there. If you are really hell-bent on knowing about those, you can send me an email and I can kind of rattle off a few. But I would say for the most part, these programs are geared more towards a day trader type of person. And then the last point here is, the margin requirements increase dramatically for overnights. So if you ever were to open a brokerage account, you will see this when, the initial margin might be, I don't know, just an example, $2,000 for whatever, a contract of crude oil, but the overnight margin, so if you want to hold it past the close, is like $10,000, something like that. I'm using very generic numbers, but it's much more. And again, that's because of the built-in risk that something happens when the market's closed that you won't be able to do anything with your position because the market's closed. Meanwhile, the world's falling apart. Number 6, can I trade crypto, foreign exchange, stocks, crypto futures? Short answer, no. Pretty much you'll be limited to futures products. So CME, CBOT, CBOE, the COMEX, the NYMEX. A few of the companies allow you to trade micro Bitcoin futures. But definitely check what you're allowed to trade. I don't trade these, so I don't really pay that much attention to it. I think there's only one company that I'm aware of that I follow that allows that, but I don't even want to say because I'm not sure. So, but that's kind of an aside, the micro kind of crypto future contracts, all the other stuff, FX, stock, crypto itself, no, these are futures products. There are other companies out there, like for FX. I'm sure there's ones for stocks and options. I don't know. I'm not in that space. Definitely there's ones for FX. Not my cup of tea, but they are out there. Number 7, how does the profit split work? How frequently am I paid? Kind of putting it 2 for 1 on this question. So in general, the first X amount of dollars is 100% yours. So whether it's $8,000, $10,000, the first dollar amount specified by the company is 100% yours. After that, the profit split kind of kicks in, and it's usually 80-20. Some companies have 90-10, meaning so 80% is yours, 20% is theirs, or 90-10, 90% is yours, 10 is theirs. So I wrote out a little examples. And again, this is on the funded side. You're funded. Maybe the company says the first 8,000 is yours. After that, it's an 80-20 split. So if you made $20,000 and you haven't done a withdrawal yet, your portion would be the first 8K is 100% yours, plus you'd get 80% on the remaining 12K, which is 96, for a total of 17,600. And then thereafter, it would just be 80-20 on everything going forward. It's usually just that upfront piece that has the 100%. Now, I will say, it wasn't really part of this question, but again, please read the rules about the withdrawals, how payouts work, etc. As it mentions here, frequency, it varies, but in general, it's anywhere from weekly to monthly. Depends on the company. And then there will also be requirements related to your withdrawals. And they are all over the place. Once again, something kind of goes back to question 1. What's the best company? Well, if getting paid out is something that's really important to you, which it should be to everybody, but let's say you're more concerned about getting paid really quickly or weekly. Well, there's going to be companies that pay out weekly, and then there's some that only pay out monthly, so you want to know that before you sign up. And then as well, like I said, there will be other little stipulations, again, I'm trying to not use specific examples, but one company requires that you have at least 5 profitable days before you can do your next withdrawal. Another company requires that you trade at least 10 days between withdrawals. Number 8, what's the point of having multiple accounts? either with the same company or with other companies, with a few different companies. Most people use multiple accounts to basically trade bigger, I would say. 5 300K accounts is better than one. It's kind of the mentality out there. So they link them all together using a trade copier. So you're effectively trading them all the same. So what you do is you set up the trade copier, you trade one account, and it just replicates all your trades in all the other accounts. You're effectively trading them all, but you're only having to put in the effort on one account. Now, of course, caveat, it works both ways. If you completely screw up one account, you're screwing up 5 accounts in this example. The other reason people use multiple accounts is to diversify risks. They might trade different products, they trade different strategies in different accounts, or as well, they use them as a backup. They might trade one account, and then if they start to get in trouble with it, maybe they bust it, well, they already have another one like ready to go. They pass 3 evaluations. They figure, okay, I'll trade this first one. It's going great, perfect. But if I, really screw it up, I bust it, I've already got a second one ready to go. I don't have to start from scratch on day one. I've kind of climbed up the ladder a little bit, if you will. So that's kind of some reasons why. I'm sure there's other reasons, but I think in my experience, like I said, probably 95% of the people do it because they just want to trade bigger. Number 9. So what happens if I make $1 million or insert any big number and I bankrupt the company? Will I get paid for sure? So a couple points about this. Again, I think people maybe need to think things through a little bit before they spit out questions. First of all, you have no incentive to make $1 million with a prop firm. So remember, you're splitting profits. Do you really want to make $1 million and have to give 20% or $200,000 in this example, which I have heard this number thrown out several times by people, assuming that they're going to make $1 million within a week, but I'll entertain it nonetheless. Do you really want to give 20% of that to a prop firm? Probably not. So what's a number that is big enough that you would stay with the prop firm, but you wouldn't feel the pain too much giving them 20%? Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000? Is it $1 million? I don't know. I would say in general, the game plan for people is pass evaluation, make profit, withdraw, put in a brokerage account where you can start trading your own capital, and then either close down the prop account or just keep trading it, but just you're not building up $1 million. The question's a little bit ridiculous, and that's where I think people are a little bit ahead of themselves. They just assume they're going to sign up, pass, and make $1 million. There's quite a few steps in between there, and I hate to tell you, but chances are you are not going to do that. And then the last point here as well, so not trying to get too into the weeds on how the funded accounts work. Some companies, yes, you're actually funded and in an account. You have to remember that any trades you're taking, you're splitting 80-20, but those trades are out there in the market. So if you made $1 million, that means there was $1 million of profit to be split up where you're only getting 800K of that and the company would keep 200,000. They would be more than happy for you to make $1 million. Now, I know a lot of people will already be saying, a lot of the companies, once you get funded, they keep you in a SIM account. That's really what they're thinking about. You pass and you move into a SIM account and you put up $1 million in profit that weren't actually passed on to the market. Aren't you going to bankrupt these companies?
No!
Again, kind of circles back to the fact that I've yet to hear a story of somebody making $1 million in a week with their brand new account. And secondly, the way the companies typically operate is once you show some level of proficiency, they will either move you into a fully funded account and or they will start replicating your trades through theirs in the market. I think this is a risk that doesn't exist. It just exists in people's head and is a little bit delusions of grandeur on people's parts when they think they're going to make $1 million. No, you're not going to bankrupt these companies. Even if you made $100,000, I hate to tell you, but I haven't heard yet of anyone passing any random company and putting up $100,000 in a relatively short amount of time. I'll just leave it at that, but don't worry, you're going to get paid. Number 10, last questions. Have you, meaning me, been paid by XYZ company? Have you had any issues with XYZ company? XYZ, of course, being insert random company here. So every single company I've been funded with, I've been paid by. Now, one exception I wrote here, just to be completely fair, is Top Step, but it's not because they wouldn't pay me. It's because I busted my account before I had any money to withdraw, just to be completely transparent. Top Step being the first company I actually passed. And then I will fully admit, I actually passed the second time, almost a year later, and busted that one as well. Little tough on the rules on the Top Step front, will say, but that's an aside. But every other company I talk about, they pay. If a company didn't pay me or gave me any reason to be suspicious, I'm the first person that's going to say, call foul and say, hey guys, timeout. You might not want to go with this company over here. Maybe I've recommended them in the past, but now they're not paying. I have no incentive to lead people astray. So any of the companies I talk about, I'm happy with. I'm happy to recommend. I will say as well, the final point here, there's lots of companies out there who do not pay traders. I don't even mention them. I don't even want to send people their way because you look at their sites, people get lured in, they go, oh, this actually sounds pretty good, blah, blah, blah. No, they are scamming people. So feel free to email me anytime. Lots of you do about different companies like, hey, I just found this new company. Do you know anything about them? Chances are I don't. There's lots of new companies popping up. I personally don't have that much interest in doing any more trader evaluations. Hey, I'm happy with the ones I have. And I think there's a fantastic selection in like the 5 or 6 I have on my site. Like there really is kind of something for everybody. Like I'm not seeing anything with other new companies that pop up that make them more appealing than the ones that I already am fully aware of. So when people email me and say like, hey, have you heard of this company? I'm thinking about going with them. Do you think I should? I mean, my answer is usually, you can if you want, but I personally would stick with a company that at least someone, namely myself, can vouch for and say, yes, you actually will be paid and you will get a funded account versus some random new company that decided to pop up. But if you want to take a flyer on those, that is up to you. But back to the initial question, I've never been screwed by any of the companies. They've all paid. Anyone that I've passed is paid. And even TopStep, who I said here I failed, I know they pay out traders. They've been around 9 years. Know of several traders who've been paid by TopStep. Okay, guys, quick summary, and then I'll get to my contact info, and then you are off to trade. Guys, feel free to email me any questions. I know I went on a little rant there at the beginning, but I'm happy to answer, 99% of the question. The whole reason I started the entire CFT, the YouTube, the website, was to help other traders. It took me a long time to suss through all the information that is out there. A lot of it leads you astray. A lot of it is people trying to sell you junk, and that's why I wanted to put it out there. Say, hey, here's my experience. Here's what I can share, and it's just grown from there. I really enjoy doing it, and yes, if you send me a question, I'm happy to answer them. So I wrote as well, there's a lot to the world of futures trading. Make sure to ask your questions and are clear on the rules before getting started. I wrote here again, I wrote a lot on this slide. I read stories almost daily of people failing because they didn't bother to read the rules, and they just make assumptions, and then they fail, and then they're mad. And it's like, guys, futures trading is not easy. People think they just sign up, they click a few buttons to make a few trades, they get lured in by videos by idiots out there who make it look like it's a cash machine, and that isn't the real world, unfortunately. So if you're going to invest the money to sign up for these trader evaluations, read the rules, and I would encourage you to do it in the opposite order. Read the rules first, understand the withdrawal process, then sign up if it matches everything that you are interested in. And then lastly, the point here I wrote, I'm a fan of the world of trader evaluations. Believe me, there are lots of critics out there. I get in arguments with them occasionally. I think it's a great way to get leverage. It's a low-cost way to try out. There's lots of upside potential there. Yes, not everyone's going to pass. Hate to tell it to you guys, just because you sign up doesn't mean you're entitled to pass. But if you put in the work and the effort, I like to think I'm a good case study on these programs actually work. I failed plenty of times in my first year, but I put in the work, I put in the studying, tried to use every failure as a learning experience, and guess what? Over time, slowly but surely, you start to see progress, start to see growth, and you ultimately get rewards. That is how the real world works. Not everything is just handed to you. Guys, my contact info, CanadianFuturesTrader.ca, links down below. As well, skipping ahead, my email is down below as well if you do have questions. The Earn to Trade Discord I put here. So you don't have to be with Earn to Trade to sign up for their Discord, but that's kind of where I hang out and chit chat through the day. Some days I do, some days I don't. But it's a good way to connect with me, or there's other traders on there as well. Social media is on my site, although quite honestly, I'm not that active on any of it. So YouTube and my site are kind of the main two places, and then the Discord. Last point here, discounts on trader evaluations. So I've been fortunate enough to have several discounts, some of them exclusive, brought forward to me by the various companies, or like CFT. Thanks for talking about us. Thanks for sharing your experience here. Anyone that signs up, they get a discount. Not going to go over them all. They change month to month. They're on my website under, I think it's exclusive promos. I have it labeled. You will find it. And there's some good deals on there. And there's oftentimes flash sales that pop up. Good way if you're still a little bit hesitant, you don't want to commit a lot of money to this, wait till there's a killer deal. And then maybe that's your time to give it a try. I will say usually around major holidays, there's excess amount of promos. So things like 4th of July, Labor Day, New Year's, good times to jump in on the promos, guys. That is it for now. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.